Welcome back for game 3 here. Luke Southworth currently drawing with Richard Parker, 1 game all in the old Aristocrats mirror match up here. This is for a spot in the final of the WMCQ for the last spot for the English team at this year's World Magic Cup.
Hope everyone's recovered from watching the stack from the end of the last game, and this has been quite a good game so far, and kind of fitting that it goes to 3 games.
Luke shocks himself, which can only mean a 2-drop.
I'm guessing Cartel Aristocrat. Yeah, there we go. 2 1-drops from Richard. It does look like Richard has brought in the electricity as well, if I'm looking at his hand. Oof, 3rd land drop miss there from Luke, although he does have Blood Artist. We might see a bit of a stare down between these creatures for a bit.
Well, when your opponent misses his 3rd land drop, might be that you really want to apply some pressure.
This is a bit of a classic I want morbid attack. Oof, clean up your board. Unless you... Yep, he's going to sacrifice his Blood Artist to give his Cartel Aristocrat protection from white, but either way that's got the Blood Artist off the board. I wonder if he might have just been better casting Electricity at the Blood Artist and...
yeah, I think Richard assumed there that Luke was bad at Magic, and Luke went, well, it turns out I'm in a semi-final of a PTQ, so I'm actually not that bad at Magic.
Yeah.
I do remember the abilities on my cards. So, but if you want to throw your guy in the bin, that's perfectly fine with me.
Yeah. Oh goody, Boros Reckoner
Luke
from Luke.
does indeed see his 3rd land, drops the Boros Reckoner, and that's what really he could have hoped for. I don't see a better card than that right now.
Yeah, and more Reckoners on both sides of the board now. It'll be interesting to see the combat that happens here now, if any combat happens. I believe that Luke will swing with his Reckoner here.
Well, if he has a backup Reckoner, he's definitely going to do that.
Well, he's got backup Reckoner, alright.
But he chooses not to swing, and well, he's got the kill on the board now. I mean, the 2nd Reckoner means that...
yeah, it means that Blasphemous Act
he doesn't have to attack. You know, if he just had the 1 Reckoner, he'd attack and try and get Richard down to 13 as fast as possible.
Yeah.
Because obviously, if Richard is at 13 and Luke's above 13, he will have the kill from the Blasphemous Act.
Yep. Richard now thinking a bit. He does have Vampire Nighthawk in hand, so that I believe that's another of his one-ofs that he'll have boarded in.
But of course that'll just be opening himself up to being killed on the very next turn.
Yep, but I don't think he's... if he's not got any way to stop that kill, the only thing he can do is just start trying to gain life with that Nighthawk. He lays his 5th land, and there is Vampire Nighthawk. Thought that card would have seen a bit more play than it actually ended up doing when it was printed at M13. I remember when it first came, when it was first reprinted at M13, pretty much every deck that had black in had at least 3 Vampire Nighthawks in it. Just turned out it never
Well,
saw
Luke
that
doesn't
much.
have the kill. If he did, he would have played it by now. He just would have slammed that bad boy on the table.
I mean, I don't think there's a lot of ways Richard can interfere with it, to tell you the truth.
Well, not while you're tapped out or close to, that's for sure.
Well, he's got 2... he does have 1 Orzhov charm. I think that's the only way that he could interfere with the kill there, if Luke has it. However, double Reckoner, double Blood Artist is pretty good if you're Luke at this point.
Luke certainly has lots of ways of setting up an instant kill at this point.
Yep.
And the larger the board gums up, the more effective these blood artists are going to be.
Yep. And Richard now has the Cartel Aristocrats down, so...
Any burn spell there, Luke, any burn spell.
Is that Mark of Mutiny from Luke? I believe it is. So I think Richard's going to be forced to sacrifice his own Boros Reckoner before things go...
It's certainly a good play here, keeping his own Boros Reckoners.
Yep.
If I had a Blasphemous Act, I'd probably mug it. I'd probably have a think for like 2.5 minutes before playing it and go, oh, I didn't see this in my hand.
Well, again, Tragic Slip stops. Well, Tragic Slip doesn't stop it at this point because of the Blood Artist on Luke's side. I think the Blood Artist would probably kill Richard before the Blasphemous Act. If the Blasphemous Act didn't kill Richard, the Blood Artist sure as heck would. And
Yep. Now he's putting him in range here.
Yep.
Doesn't really change anything from Richard's point of view. He was already in range due to the 2 Boros Reckoners.
Yep.
Richard's staring at his 2 cards there, is it?
No, it's just one.
Just the 1 card, hoping that it turns into 2 cards.
Yeah. Turns into sort of a mega Tragic Slip that like kills all of his opponent's creatures.
Well, he can't play it out for the draw. There is no time limit in the top 8.
I just don't think he's had the goods in this.
Yeah, he kind of
in this
realises
game,
he's
really.
under the cosh here in game 3.
Yeah, I mean, no High Priest, no Blood Artist. He's not really had a good way to put pressure on, and just looks like Luke's coming up with all the goods in this game so far. No, Richard's going to have a good think. He's not going to go down without a fight.
We may end up losing a few viewers, though, if this carries on at this speed.
Can you figure out this board scape, viewers? What would be the optimal play?
Occasionally you do find that when you get to sort of PTQ top 8s or WMCQ top 8s, you know, the game slows to a crawl as one person realises they're going down.
Well, they just really don't want to make a mistake and want to make sure that they, you know, if they do get beaten, it's their opponent that's beaten them, and they haven't just beaten themselves by missing something.
There's not really that many decisions to make here from Richard.
Not really. I mean, I don't think there's a profitable block for him, and he just ends up taking the 6.
Like we said, you know, Blasphemous Act kills him regardless of whether he's on 13 or 20.
Yep.
I mean, he can be on as high as something like 31 life and maybe 33 or 34 and be dead from that spot due to the double blood artists.
Yep, I would say that... I mean, you're looking at probably something like an additional 14 damage coming from those blood artists in addition to the Blasphemous Act, so Luke could conceivably kill him if he was on 40 life at this point if he had the Blasphemous Act. And Richard didn't have anything to interfere with.
Makes you wonder how someone with 3 Thragtusts would be feeling confident about being at, say, 35 life and then just being dead in this situation.
I think Richard's just seeing if there's any possible way he can maximise his chances here, but I think he's just hoping that Luke literally has nothing at this point.
I think he's hoping he has less than nothing. I think if Luke has nothing, he probably still wins.
True. The thing is, all Luke needs to do is do him another 4 damage, and he can just bin his board, and he'll win due to the blood artist triggers.
Richard can't even win the game by stalling and hoping that Luke dropped dead of a heart attack, you know. Richard being the older of the two players.
Fifth land from Luke. Now Luke's the one to have a good think about what he wants to do at this point. I don't know if this is quite the situation. I just want to think of the best way to kill you, but it's pretty, I think it's getting there. And he just continues to turn those 2 Boros Reckoners sideways.
This will bring Richard down to 9.
Yep. Still not quite dead, but certainly approaching that point.
Well, Richard, you're in the same situation you was last turn.
He's got 1 more card in hand this turn, so he might be able to do something. Reckoner's just so difficult to deal with in combat.
Especially in this kind of matchup where you want to keep your own creatures on the board for as long as possible.
Yeah, and there's protections and blood artists and various other things going on. So Richard's going to tragic slip one of the blood artists before anything happens in combat here.
Solid enough play, probably the best thing you could have hoped for there.
Yep. Luke's going to allow it, and 2-point life swing.
He then sacrifices the blocker before combat.
Yep, so the Boros Reckoner doesn't go and shoot something else. And Richard takes 3 from the unblocked Reckoner. Which, even though it hasn't been marked down on the life totals, I believe one of our judges is just about to point out. As we were discussing in the previous game, oh wait, there's been a long and complicated combat situation. Does anyone realise that there's been unblocked creatures here?
So Luke casts Lingering Souls and flashes it back for 4 tokens.
Yep, so he's building up the forces once again just to simply be able to sacrifice his board and kill Richard. Still haven't seen Blasphemous Act. Oh, there we go, helping hand coming in from one of the judges there. This is where Richard's hands like 2 Blasphemous Acts. Not casting them anytime soon. Is Thundermaw Hellkite get him into this game, even if he's... I mean, assuming he's sideboarded it in, which he may not have done. Another Cartel Aristocrat. That, again, isn't really what he's looking for at this point.
Doesn't really change anything at this point. Just 1 swing from Luke now is enough to kill Richard.
Yep. I mean, and Luke's got all the guys in the air and 2 Reckoners that are just impossible to deal with as far as combat damage goes. I'm really not sure how Richard's going to pull this one out. And even if he leaves all his guys on defense, Blasphemous Act just cleans him up. But that's been true for a while now. And he just passes the turn back.
Just asking Luke whether Luke is bad at magic. Or are you bad at magic and don't realise how to kill me this turn?
Let me count the ways, I think, is what Luke's saying. Yeah. That'll do it.
And just for extra rubs. Luke takes this game down 2-1, and we're going to be seeing him in the final.